Yeah, good evening and welcome to Quarter 3 FY21 earnings call. On an overall basis, Quarter 3 witnessed mixed trends with respect to recovery from pandemic across the market. While India continued to witness a sequential recovery of near to normal, certain other markets where we are present, such as US, Europe and LATAM, they witnessed extended lockdowns during the quarter. A very quick highlights of our financial performance for the quarter. Revenues were at 1,995 crores, up by 1% on a year-on-year basis. Operating EBITDA was at 607 crores, up by 12% on a YOY basis, and the margin is 30%. Net profits were 297 crores, up by 18% on a year-on-year basis. The Board of Directors today have approved an interim equity dividend of rupees 20 per equity share. I would now hand over the call to Aman for taking us through the India business. Thank you.
Thanks, Sudhir. The India business revenues were 930 crores, up 7% on a year-on-year basis. The IPM witnessed a sequential recovery in Q3 with a growth of 6%. Versus low to negative growth in the first two quarters. Torrent's Q3 growth as per AIOCD was 8%. Growth was driven by overall recovery in footfalls, continued momentum in chronic brands, and strong recovery in sub-chronic brands. Our growth was also complemented by new launches, the contribution of which increased to 2.9% versus 2% of Q3 last year. While we continue to outperform many of these high potential new launches from the last year, we have further launched two promising brands in this quarter, including Dapagliflozin and Rivaroxaban. We would further like to highlight that in Q3 we have undertaken a phased restructuring of our field force to optimize focus on high growth markets and therapies. As of Q3, the MR strength post this restructuring was 3,800 compared to 4,000 in the previous quarter, and the PCPM was 8.1 lakhs. In the beginning of Q4, we have further executed this restructuring, and the field force strength as of this quarter, Q4, stands at 3,600, and this PCPM will be reflected at the end of Q4. Torrent continues its focus on brand building and specialty approach, and has 16 brands in the top 500 of the IPM, with 10 brands more than 100 crore sales. I'll now hand over to Mr. Sanjay Gupta to take us through the international markets.
Thanks, Aman. Let's begin with Brazil. During 2020, Brazil's GDP shrank by an estimate of 5 to 6%. Despite initial concerns in the March-April timeframe about the pharma market, it has demonstrated a solid performance. As per IQVIA, MAT December performance of the branded generic market in Brazil was a growth of 7.9%, and in comparison, Torrent had a performance of 10.1% growth. Q3 internal sales were at reais 125 million, up by 16% on a year-on-year basis. Q3 sales growth is primarily due to volume increase in our large brands as well as the launch of new products. We launched two new products in Brazil, Mirtazapine ODT as well as Bisoprolol. Our generic business, which now contributes 6% to our top line, has also started growing strongly. In Germany, in Q3, the German market was flat after 2 quarters of negative growth. Torrent's Q3 sales were at euros 29.6 million, up by 10% on a year-on-year basis. Our quality issues have now been resolved, and this is reflected in our recovering market share. Our market share has almost reached its prior level prior to the quality issues, and is currently at 7% as compared to a peak market share in September 2019 of 7.2%. We have already launched 6 products this year and expect to launch 2 further products before the end of this fiscal year. Moving on to the US, our Q3 sales in the US were $39.3 million as compared to $51.5 million in similar period last year. US growth continued to be impacted due to temporary discontinuation of our sartan products, absence of new launches, and price erosion on the base portfolio. For Indrad and Dahej, we have submitted closure reports and continue to await guidance from the US FDA on next steps. Currently, we have 47 ANDAs pending approval and 6 tentative approvals in hand. To conclude, Q3 revenue growth was strong in India, Germany, and Brazil. Profitability improvement was backed by cost control and efficiency improvements. Our focus continues to be on deepening our presence in our core markets and on returning our U.S. business back to growth. Operator, we can open the call to questions now.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask questions, please press star and 1. The first question is from the line of Prakash Agarwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. The first question is around India business. I heard Sudhir saying, return to normalcy of 8%. But when we see the split of volume and price and new products, so I think volume is still a negative number for both the market as well as Torrent. How do we see this, going forward? What is the initial pillars? And how do we see the growth for next year?
Yeah, the volume still continues to be negative, and the IPM volume was minus 1.9% for the quarter, and Torrent was minus 1.6%. So this has seen a gradual recovery every quarter, so we expect it to continue the same pace of recovery over the next quarters.
Okay, but given the low base that we have, is it fair to assume that we could have a mid-teen kind of growth with volumes coming back?
That would be too early to say right now when mid-teen growth would be back. It all depends on the overall market recovery. And what we've seen so far is that till Q3 there has been a consistent increase in the subchronic and acute as well. So that would be, because chronic has remained more or less stable. So as that picks up, the overall volumes would also pick up.
Okay, and the comment that you made on the phase restructuring, so with 3,600 in this Q4, is it already done and this is the number we want to achieve, or there could be further restructuring as well?
No, this is what has already been executed.
Okay, and so this 3,800 was during the quarter 3, or it was at the fag end of the quarter 3? We are going to see the impact in upcoming quarters?
Yeah, 3,800 was in Q3, and at the beginning of Q4 it was 3,600. So it's been done over a 3-4 month period.
Okay, so we're going to see the impact from Q4 onwards in totality.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay, and then next question is for Sanjay on the US side. So Q4 we were expected to see the liquid, products which were discontinued from the US plant. So are we on track to reintroduce them, and how should we expect the pickup from sales of those products?
So we should expect commercial impact starting from the April time frame onwards. The plant renovation is complete. We're going through the validation requirements at this point in time. So we should have sales coming in from Q1 of next fiscal year. And generally, our first goal is to launch currently approved products. So we have about 6 approved products which we should bring to the market. I think the first year would be a gradual ramp up, and second year onwards, I would say we should be back to where we were before we shut down the facility, which was at the annual run rate of between $10 to $15 million. That's what we're targeting in the initial, let's say, couple of years.
Okay, I have a couple more. I'll join back with you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Neha Mansoria from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. On the India business, given our volume is, declining, and you mentioned that the chronic sales is pretty stable, how should I look at that versus, this phase restructuring? I mean, what was the reason behind this phase restructuring, given the volume is already weak, in the quarter, over the last few months?
It was, exactly that. The essential purpose of this restructuring was to defocus on some of the less or low-growing brands and increase focus on the higher growth brands, including the new launches. So that's the intent.
And this reduction that you've seen, were these essentially from any specific therapy areas or any particular brands? I mean, the older brands, etc. Would you like to highlight?
I can certainly share that they were from the older brands. Those would be the kind of low growth markets.
Okay, understood. And on the Brazil business, we have seen a good quarter-on-quarter momentum on a constant currency basis. Sanjay, what is the product launch pipeline for Brazil over the next year, and how should we look at growth, in this market?
So, frankly speaking, I've been surprised this year by the strength of the Brazilian pharma market. Overall, we are seeing the branded generic market in the 8% range, and the generic market in the 15-16% range. And this is despite the negative performance on the GDP. So this market continues to, pharma market in Brazil continues to be, I would say, an island of growth in this overall environment, and I think that is going to continue. So the projections I am seeing for the next 3, 4, 5 years from IMS and other consultancies is in the same range. Our objective is twofold. Firstly, is to grow a branded generics business, and we would be launching about 3 to 5 products a year in terms of branded generics. Mm-hmm. And at some point in time, we would be forced to undertake an expansion of the 2 key forces we have, which are in the CNS and cardio-diabetes area. So the branded generic business would grow with existing products and 3 to 5 new products a year. In terms of our generic business, which is currently small because branded generics is 91% of our business and generics is about 6% of our business. There is an enormous scope for growth here because the market itself is growing 15-16% and we have a relatively narrow portfolio. So again, we would launch and there is no need to increase field force to launch more generics. So we'd be focused on launching initially maybe less than 5, but eventually adding to that portfolio. So I would say overall we should grow faster than the market in both our segments, branded generics and generics.
Understood. And lastly, on the operating costs, if I were to look at our, other expenses like R&D, that pretty much remains flat, even though commentary from most of the peers or even you suggested near normalization of, trends in India. Has the restructuring also meant lower SG&A costs? Is that the way we should look at it, or how should we look at this cost trending forward?
So Neha, the promotional expenses have started going up. So versus quarter 2, quarter 3 has seen some increase happening. So that's something which has started. The only thing which has happened in this quarter is there were some offsetting items, setting off the increase in the sales and distribution expenses. So one is, I had said the freight expenses had gone up, right, in quarter 1, and there's some normalization which will happen. So good amount of normalization has happened in terms of freight expenses in quarter 3. So that's offset the increase which was seen in the promotional stroke selling and distribution expenses. Also, there were certain failure to supply provision which was made, not very big ones, smaller ones, where because of the supplies normalizing, it was reversed in quarter 3. So although the sales and marketing expenses have gone up, there were some offsetting things which have happened in quarter 3. Hello?
Thank you. The next question is from Anubhav Agarwal from Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Aman, one question on this restructuring sales force. Can you just indicate almost 10% of sales force which has gone away? What was the productivity level when you report overall quarter 2? It was before restructuring 8.1 lakh or 8 lakhs. Were these guys around 2 or 3 lakhs? So what would have been the productivity level?
No, it wouldn't have been as low as that. I think it would have been certainly lower than the company average, but it's not about that specific factor. It's the products that were more realigned. So we looked at it from a product positioning and promotional angle rather than just a productivity angle.
Can you explain this a little bit more in a sense that, so effectively we're saying that we are not losing sales at all. Same work is now being done by 10% lesser field force. Is that what's happening? So the same brand's being promoted by a lesser number of guys.
Yeah, I mean, one or two brands may be off on less focus overall. So, but those brands should be able to maintain the share. But overall, there shouldn't be any negative impact on sales because coverage has not been impacted. Coverage is in fact exactly the same. So net benefit should not, I mean, net impact on sales should not be negative at all.
Okay. Second question is on the US business. Now the new run rate of sub $40 million. Is it more to lose? Let's say, suppose our facilities, let's say, just as scenario doesn't get clear for another 2-3 quarters, we see more competition coming in. For example, Dettol LA now is not such a big product for us, but we still see more and more guys keep coming there. So is 39 a new low that on this we cannot go down significantly here, or is it like a number in 30-35 is still possible as a quarterly run rate?
So, I mean, there's forces in both directions, right? On the positive side, we would have the Levittown plant starting sales from April. And then we have some external business development projects which are coming through. So we recently launched Azithromycin IR, and we've also launched another product, Aprepitant. So these would be, I would say, contributors on the positive side, the liquids business and the external R&D projects. On the negative side, price erosion continues. So because we have a mature portfolio, and so as new entrants come in, there would be price erosion, and the price erosion, I would say, would be in the in the high single digits is what we are seeing in the US market right now. So overall, I would say that maintaining would be a good result.
Okay. And just one more question, Sudhir sir, here is that this year margins have been great. I'm not looking for a number, but just as a direction, would fiscal 22 margins can match up fiscal 21, or only fiscal 23 margins would be higher or equal to fiscal 21?
No. So this year the margins have been higher, right? And I don't think it is sustainable. I mean, the way I look at Anubhav is that if I look at FY20 as the normalized year, right? There, I think the operating EBITDA was roughly 27%. And what we've been talking about the business is that at least there are some inherent levers because of the branded piece being 65% for the margin to improve at least by 75 to 100 basis points. So I think if this year was not impacted by COVID, probably from 27 we would have come to 28, and therefore next year we should be at around 29, I would say. That's the way to look at it. But I really don't know whether some of these cost efficiency which has been brought in would play out next year or not. Maybe a little bit, but not significant.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of V.S. Rambabu, who's an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Sir, yeah, good evening, sir. Hello?
Yeah, please go on.
Sir, I am the retail individual investor. I am happy to know that the company is growing very, given good financial results also for this quarter. But I am asking one question, but I do not know whether I can ask or not. I do not know this question. If any wrong with me, please kindly pardon me. Is there any idea to issue bonuses or anything for reward of the shareholders, sir, in near future?
So I think in the opening call I just mentioned that today was the board meeting, right?
Okay.
The board has approved an interim dividend of 20 rupees.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Nothing more. Yeah, nothing more.
Is there any near future proposals are there like to know that?
Yeah,
but
that's what I said, right? I mean, so today the board meeting is over, so there's nothing of that sort as on date.
Okay. But sorry, sir, I do not know whether this question may be asked or not. I do not know. As individual investor, I am asking. However, I am happy to know that good results were posted by the company. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Shah from ASK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
In that field restructuring, where significant such large field force has been reduced, then why did we wait this long? I mean, did it need a pandemic for us to take such a decision?
No, not really. It's more dependent on the market dynamics of each portfolio, for each therapy in the portfolio. And the call was taken looking at the future growth markets. So the idea was to really optimize the overall growth of the portfolio.
No, that I understand, and that it's for the growth of the portfolio. But if these restructuring were relatively so simple, shouldn't we have done it earlier itself, rather than having waited during this? Because there's not a minor reduction.
I don't think we would have been able to do it sooner. It's purely a call that we evaluate, as we mentioned on the calls, that every year, every few years, we do evaluate the overall portfolio and productivity. So it's part of that exercise.
The separation cost is already reflected in this quarter results?
Sudhir?
Yeah, absolutely.
All the costs are reflected in these quarter results?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from Prakash Agarwal from Axis Capital. Please go ahead. Mr. Prakash Agarwal, you may go ahead with the question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, on the financials, just wanted to know the debt reduction for the quarter and the FCF for the quarter.
So, YTD December, the total reduction is roughly 850 crores.
And first half was, sir?
440, I think, yeah.
Okay. And what is we were looking at 1,000 crore plus number.
Yeah, I think we should be there. We should be there. Yeah.
So we should be around 1,200 now?
No, I think it's closer to 1,000 is definitely possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let's see what happens in quarter 4, Prakash.
Okay. And what is the free cash flow, sir?
Free cash flows as at December should be roughly 1,200 crores.
Okay. And just one on the US FDA, I heard the opening remarks. So our remediation is fully done, as was also the last quarter. But in terms of dialogue with the FDA, has the dialogue progressed, or they given any dates, or the physical inspection started by Indian inspectors? Anything of that sort that we have requested? Any update would be useful.
Yeah, no. So we are in touch, and our regulatory group has been communicating with the FDA. But there is nothing that we are able to share right as of today in terms of indication as to when they would come. So it's an ongoing conversation, and we have taken note of the fact that some local inspectors from the FDA have started visiting facilities. So from our side, let's say the pressure is on, but when we have something concrete, we will report to you.
Okay, perfect. And last, just one more clarification. So, from a margin, EBITDA margin, expectation perspective, what I heard right was around 29%, with the phase restructuring getting reflected, but with not much impact on the revenue growth. Would that be correct understanding?
What do you mean, not much impact on the revenue growth?
So when you're pulling out 400 people, as Aman...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is not much on the impact on the sales, as you are just defocusing on a low growth brand portfolio. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from Arpit Kapoor from IDFC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Just on the domestic piece, so given with the reduced sales force, we are currently running almost 1 crore plus per MR. So where do you see, how far can you see this number going before, let's say, we will evaluate before we would need to add sales force again?
So the existing basket of brands in the portfolio right now can certainly sustain this strength of the field force. And as and when we have further launches over the next year and a half, it leaves us in a much more comfortable position in terms of overall PCPM to expand as well. So we would take a call definitely every year on the expansion. And just to further clarify, this restructuring also did have some part of expansion as well. So it wasn't just a decrease. It was net at 3,600.
Okay. And as far as the pricing is concerned, so again, volumes continue to be negative. I guess pricing growth would have been close to 6-7%, and that is the trend that we believe we are comfortable even for next year as well. So we'll be able to take that much kind of a pricing growth from a portfolio point of view for the domestic business.
Yes, should be.
Okay. And in terms of new product introductions, any plans of getting into new therapies, or it would be in the existing therapies that we are there?
As of now, it's more in the existing therapies. This quarter in Q3, we had 7 new launches, and we expect maybe 4 to 5 in Q4.
Okay. Thank you. And all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from Bharat Shah from ASK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
I hope this is not taken wrongly, but last several quarters, 8-9 quarters, we seem to be in a kind of Hindu rate of growth of 1%, 2%, 3% type. When do we think we are likely to break out of this stranglehold?
Okay. I'll take that question. Yeah. So you're right. So one of the two important factors which have impacted, right? For the last 5 or 6 quarters. One is the US business, right? So somewhere in 2019, this whole US FDA warning letter and OAI came in. And since most of our filings are basically from these 2 facilities, we were stuck on account of the new products not coming in. So US-based business, we know that it's always a declining sales, right, because of price erosion. So that's something which has got impacted. The other is in terms of INR growth, yes, the BRL USD depreciation, which has almost been 25% over a period of 1.5 years, right? So these 2 put together have impacted. The third thing which happened was somewhere in Q3 of last year, we had implemented the new quality management system in Germany, because of which there were a lot of backlogs in terms of releasing batches to the market, right? And over the last 3 quarters, we have been talking about all these 3 parameters. But if you look at the intrinsic value for these 3 businesses, you will see that Germany has now come back to a double-digit growth, which is around 10% in constant currency, and INR growth is around 21%. So I think the future outlook for Germany looks very good because all the remediation plan is now over, and we are back as per our normal ways, right? The second thing is, as far as Brazil is concerned, last quarter we said, right, adjusted for the neutralization which is happening in the institutional business, it's double digit. So now we've started seeing double-digit growth in Brazil in terms of constant currency, which is 16%. Although in terms of INR, it is -8%, right? But we believe that going forward now, there's no room for further currency depreciation as far as BRL USD is concerned. And if at all, once the economy starts to revive after this whole COVID disruption which has happened, there should be some appreciation happening. So going forward, you'll see Brazil also doing well, both in terms of constant currency and INR. India is already understood well because the market is gradually recovering, and we've seen a 6% growth in Q3. So we believe that Q4 should be still better than Q3. and we should be 200 basis point, at least 200 basis point above the market, right? I mean, so that should also be on track. So US is only a surprise which is there, right? I mean, so we are all waiting for the US FDA inspection to happen and our new products to come in. And once those things come in, you'll start seeing US contributing to the overall growth of the company, right? Because today, if you see, US is around 20% of the business, and which is degrowing at around 25%, right? So the overall growth, in fact, because of US is 5% for the reasons known. But once the US FDA issue is sorted out in the coming year, you'll find US contributing to the overall growth of the company. So all the 4 important geographies which contribute to 85% of our total revenue, you'll start seeing the overall growth coming in.
So will you say the next year should be a year of watershed departure?
Yeah, provided the US thing happens, right? I mean, so the expectation is there. So we keep on hearing that, 1 or 2 facilities have started, and the US FDA has started with a physical inspection. So we are also waiting for our turn. So if that happens in H1, so I think from H2, things should start looking much better.
Provided they approve it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So they are God. We have to wait for them.
No, everybody waits for God. Sure, all the best.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from Nitin Agarwal from DM Capital. Please go ahead.
All right. Thanks for taking my question. Aman, on the India business, when we take a, say, 3 to 5 year view of this business, just looking at hypothetically a potential growth composition, should we continue to keep modeling in a 5-6% value increase on an annualized basis for this business?
Price growth, you mean, at 5-6%?
Yes.
Yeah, near term, that definitely is something that we think should be sustainable. From a 5-year period is difficult to say from now because it depends on market dynamics, market share at that point of time.
So what, I mean, at least a year or 2 years, that trend should sustain in terms of the market can take, in your assessment, this kind of price hikes in the portfolio?
Yeah. That should be doable.
And at what stage do our new product launches begin to sort of start contributing in a meaningful way? In, let's say 4-5% of our portfolio, or is there a feasibility, right, in the sense that the new portfolio starts contributing like 4-5%?
No, but usually the new contribution is measured over a 2-year period, and then they move to the base portfolio. So over a 2-year period from 0 to 24 months, anything between 3 to 3.5% is a good number, I would say. And maybe like we've seen in the past when exceptionally strong launches were made, we've reached even 4.5%. But I think right now what we're seeing is around 3%, which should be, rather we are quite satisfied with that.
Perfect. That's helpful. And secondly, lastly on this one, on the base business, as you said, the base business, from a volume growth perspective of the core business, I mean, do you see challenges in certain parts of the portfolio to grow, from a volume perspective, or bulk of the portfolio you believe has enough in itself to sort of keep growing at maybe a mid-single digit growth over the next, say, 5 years or whatever, 3 or 4 years?
No, right now it's more market dependent. So as and when the market and demand picks up, we should also grow with that. So no any other issues that we see specifically from our volume front.
So you don't see issue with the portfolio construction or molecule construction that should impede our growth once the market begins to come back?
That's right.
Okay, perfect. That's helpful. And Sudhir, you talked about the margin expansion in terms of sort of looking at pegging it to FY20 levels for going forward. So are we sort of expecting or rather assuming that the costs which are there, especially on the SG&A costs, are going to go much faster than the revenue growth for next year? Is that how we should model it?
I really don't know. It depends upon what kind of revenue growth is going to come next year, right? I mean, whether there's an operating leverage which will kick off. That's something we'll have to wait and see. But what I said is in a normal scenario, yeah, I mean, 29% is something which I would have anticipated in FY22. So I think that should remain.
But Sudhir, if you're already at 31% or thereabout this year, we're talking about significant negative operating leverage then for next year for us to...
Absolutely. So this year is an aberration, right? We know that. I mean, because the top line is not there, the expenses are not there, right? I mean, so tomorrow if the top line is coming, the expenses will also be in tandem with the top line. But would there be a negative leverage in FY22 is something we'll have to wait and see, right? I mean, if the top line is also growing, it's better than FY21, and the expenses are also growing in tandem with the top line. So I think we should be there. It should not be a major problem.
That's what I was thinking, because unless and until we build in a major negative operating leverage, I mean, we should not, that kind of a margin compression which a 29% implies should not come through.
No, so I mean, what is your belief? The 30% will continue, is it?
So my point is, the only assumption, the point here is that if you're going to go down, say 150, 200 basis points versus where we are in FY21 to in FY22, despite revenue picking up versus FY21, we're talking of significant negative operating leverage on the incremental revenue, is the point I was making.
Versus FY21, right? I mean, so you're looking at a 30% margin which is there in FY21. And since we are talking about FY22, 29% margin in a normal scenario, so yes, there's some amount of negative operating leverage kicking in,
right?
Which theoretically is correct. I mean, that's what I said, right? I mean, there would be some pieces of cost efficiency which is already worked in current year, may continue next year, but I really don't know. Because so far we've been quite a financially disciplined company, right? So wherever it was possible to bring in cost efficiency, we worked on that every year.
Right.
So yes, I mean on a very realistic basis, I would say so. I mean 1% negative operating leverage kicking in to make it 29 versus 30 of this year.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Damayanti Kerai from HSBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So my question is on the US side. So let's assume FDA comes and inspect our plant within next 6 months, 2 quarters down the line, and we get the clearance. So how long it will take for you to go back to, I'll say, pre-disruption sales level?
Sanjay, you're there? Hello, Sanjay?
Line from Mr. Sanjay has dropped. Give me a moment while I reconnect him.
Sure.
Meanwhile, if I can ask a question on the India part. So going ahead, what kind of launch plans you have? Like how many products you are intending to launch in a year? Obviously, the focus is more on the ramp up of key existing brands, but what about the new launches plans?
So YTD December, we've had a total of 17 new launches, and Q4 we expect around 4 or 5, out of which one should be in a relatively significant market, and similar number of launches should be planned in Q1 next year, maybe 4 or 5. So that's the current foreseeable new launch trajectory.
So broadly, 20 launches per year we are assuming for India market, right? On a very broad.
No. This year was slightly higher than normal. So I don't know if 20 would be the right number. So next year, I think it may be slightly lower.
Okay. And one question on Losartan products. I think recent secondary data is showing up some pickup in growth compared to, I think, what we had seen in previous quarter. So are you seeing the same in your primary numbers for the Losartan products?
Yeah, Losar overall has done better this year compared to the earlier years since acquisition. So overall, we continue to gain market share in the losartan market as the brand Losar, though the market itself is not going to grow as fast as the telmisartan market. So our goal will be to continue gaining this share within the market.
Sure.
Thank you. The next question is from Kashyap Pujara, who's an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Most of my questions have been answered, but just a recap on losartan. I think you were planning to change the source of API to in-house. So where are we on that journey? Are we kind of through with it, or where are we on it?
This is for the US business, right? Sanjay, you're there?
Yeah. So essentially, so it's a very broad portfolio that we have. So we prioritize, let's say, 3 to 4 sartans that we would be relaunching. And out of these 3 to 4, there are a few where I would say the economic opportunity is still present and where we have approved DMS from inside Torrent. So we would be actually focused on relaunching those with a much greater percentage of API coming from in-house. So it is part of the plan, but the number of sartans that we would be launching would be low single digit in the course of the next 3-4 months.
Sure. And just to gauge, what are the at peak? What would have been revenue from this segment? And do you think that once these issues are behind, you can get back to that number?
So at its peak, the sartans contributed about 30 million to Torrent's top line. So the market dynamics today are very different from what they were at that point in time. We've been through a phase where there was a shortage, price hikes, and now we are back to a normalized phase with plenty of supply in the market. And the days of shortage are behind us. So I think it would be very hard for us to kind of reach that level of sales anytime soon with the sartan portfolio.
Sure. Understand. And lastly, I did hear you mention on the India margins, which will be around 29% next year. But just leave aside the following year, and if you take a trajectory of 3 to 5 years, wouldn't it be fair to assume that given the restructuring and the MR efficiency which is underway, more utilizations of your in-house API, and once the regulatory cost, at least in the US side, also kind of come behind us, wouldn't there be a genuine operating leverage which one can build in from the current levels? So do you think that there is room for further improvement on EBITDA margins 3 to 5 years out from the current margins that we are seeing in the current year, which is around 30-31%?
No, absolutely. So I think today US is contributing in a negative way, right? I mean, that's how I would say. So I think with the new products coming in, the higher margin products coming in, yes, I mean, I agree, it's going to be positive from an overall perspective. But we'll have to wait and watch, because as a policy, we don't give any forward-looking statements.
Sure.
The only thing is, yes, I mean, for example, our Dahej facility is also underutilized, right? I mean, so as and when new bigger volume products walks in, there would be some cost efficiency walking in at the manufacturing level also. So I think it's very logical to think that as the business in the US starts growing and with new products coming in with better realization, that should help in offsetting the price erosion on the base business, but at the same time also bringing in overall cost efficiency and improving the margin on an overall basis. Yeah.
Sure. That's all from my side. Thank you so much, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Sharma from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question. Sir, this defocused portfolio, is it fair to say that instead of promoting to doctors, you guys are now promoting it through trade, or is it not being promoted at all?
I would say it will be low intensity promotion. It won't be the focused promotion as the other brands. So it basically in
incentive, it drops third or fourth kind of a product that is that how this would work, sir?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is correct. It may not be number 1, 2, 3. It may be probably down below that.
And sir, what percentage of our India portfolio would now be actively promoted to doctors, which would be, typically number 1, 2, or 3 to the doctors?
Should be upwards of 75, 77%, I believe. But I'll get the exact number offline and correct if it's not correct. But it should be around that range.
Sure. And just last question on M&A. Is there some interest in growth via M&A? In last couple of years, you guys have, after Unichem transaction, you guys have been not very keen to grow via M&A. Is there some rethink on that?
No, absolutely no rethink on that. In fact, we do believe that it's an important growth driver going ahead as well. And it's about waiting for the right portfolio fit for us more than anything else.
And the M&A interest would primarily remain to be India, right?
First priority would be India, yes.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Ritesh Rathod from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you help us understand what kind of digital initiatives or investments have been done in India business, particularly in the context, does the peak productivity of your MR goes up dramatically post this investment?
So I would say digital investments overall have been not very significant. Of course, we have gone digital in all the ways required, but we don't see that replacing the physical in any way. We see it as more as a complementary promotional method. So that shouldn't really lead to any savings from the existing cost structure.
And what was the gross addition in Q3 when you highlighted, and what would be in next 4 quarters and next 12 months you're planning, if you can share anything on that side, on the MR side?
No, so this number should be sustainable for some time. So no real plans to change this from now.
And what was in Q3? Any you mentioned the number is net. There was some gross addition. Can you help with that?
Yeah, I think so. We have had minor additions. Maybe I would say 50 to 60 reps were added.
Oh. And any major launch in FY22 in India business? You mentioned Q4 you have one product launch, significant launch. Any launches in FY22?
Yeah, there will be. There will be some in cardio, some in diabetes, but I wouldn't say it would be as significant as this year overall. So we'll continue focusing on these 5 to 6 large market launches from last year.
Thanks. That's from us.
Thank you. The next question is from Shyam Srinivasan from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Just first one is on the Germany business, right? We've seen now double-digit growth in constant currency terms. So just want to understand the outlook here for this business. Have all the restructuring, serialization, all of that is now completely done, and we can just look towards market growth or higher growth? That is one. And the portfolio overlap with our India business. So how many of your products are there, and what is the upside that we can sell into Germany?
So the issues were linked to the quality SOPs in Germany, and these have been updated. And so about 98-99% of the products are now being released in a normal fashion. So we do not expect these problems to resurface or to impact our business going forward. Then in terms of growth, currently the German market is on a net basis about 2 to 2.5 billion euros. Torrent currently covers only about 48% of the German market in terms of product portfolio overlap with German. And the product portfolio is very broad. And it is therapeutic area agnostic, so the overlap with the Indian business does not really matter because you're selling in the generic business without promotion. So you don't really need to be, organized as we are in terms of therapeutic areas in the branded generic markets. So our growth will continue to come from new product launches. So I had mentioned in my opening comment that we launched 8 products this year, and then we will continue to launch 8 to 10 products every year. And then we'll continue to bid on improving our presence in higher volume products. So with our plants in Dahej, we currently have 2 products already approved from Dahej, and we will be getting a significant number approved in the next 2-3 years to make us more competitive in high volume segments. So all that said, we expect a return to a high single-digit type of growth rate in Germany from these factors going forward.
But I also remember you said in your market share you have already reached the peak or close to that peak. So we foresee that we can clearly be ahead in terms of what market share there is before our whatever changes.
Correct. So we are right now in December IMS data. We are at 7% market share. And at peak in 2019, we were at 7.2%. So we are very close. In the next 2 or 3 years, our goal would be to enhance this further and join the top 3 players who are more in the 9 to 11% market share range. So our goal is, of course, to enhance our presence. To increase market share, we have to become, I would say, a player in the high volume product segment.
Fair enough. Thank you. And my second question is on capital allocation in the interim. You talked a little bit about M&A, but just curious, how are you, the kind of cash that is getting generated? What are we planning for the next 1-2 years?
So Shyam, I think the goal is very clear. So I think the entire focus of priority is on deleveraging. So I think major part of the capital allocation would be going towards that, deleveraging.
So Sudhir, just what debt level? So we think we can kind of pay it down entirely over the next 1.5 years. You think?
I would think so. Entirely down meaning I think in terms of net debt to EBITDA, I think we should be substantially down to a level which we were prior to acquiring Unichem.
Fair enough. Got it. Thank you and all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anupam Agarwal from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. So my question is on the US front. Our press release suggests that we have around 47 ANDAs pending. So my question was basically, out of these products, how many are still economically feasible for us to launch when our plants get resolved, and how many are not economical, and how many are economical to go forward with based on market dynamics of those products at current levels?
So I think you're right to analyze in terms of economic viability at a given point in time. However, this would depend. Once we are prepared to launch all these products, but it would depend upon the timing of the approval of the plants, right, and the timing of the approval of the because what happens is initially if you miss the first wave of launches, for the next few months you can't really do anything. But then after that the market dynamic plays out, and there might be shortages or there might be some players withdrawing. So we'll see when we are closer to the launch as to which ones are viable. But there'll be a bunch of them which would not be viable. I wouldn't be in a position to quantify for you today as to what proportion are not viable. But as you can expect, in delayed launch scenarios, there are some molecules which lose their economic interest. But hard to quantify today.
So basically, if I have to rephrase, from the time of filing of those products versus that current situation, how is the dynamics across not product by product, but on an average product basket level, if you can tell us something?
So late launches, because you did not get approval, you were not able to launch at the initial timing, right? The first number of launches. So late launches are economically less interesting than on-time launches in a generic market. But at the same time, there are pockets of opportunity in that portfolio because of either not enough competitors, or because there were some competitors who could not come to the market or could not launch or had shortages or whatever. So we'll evaluate all of this, and but there should be a substantial number of launches. because of the large volume of portfolio that we have.
Right.
So there, even if there is a portion of them which are not economically viable, there would be let's say a significant number which would remain interesting.
Understood. So just some bookkeeping questions. Our other operating revenue has substantially gone down YOY from 42 crores to 23 crores. Does this include the MEIS benefit that has gone away?
Yeah, that's right.
Is it fair to assume that this is the sustainable run rate going forward on that line item?
No. So I think there's a new scheme which the government has floated, right? RODTEP,
Right.
In place of MEIS.
Right.
We're just waiting. The scheme is out, but in terms of industry-specific percentages which would be given, that is yet to come. So we believe by March it should come. Our expectation is substantial portion of MEIS should get covered under those schemes.
Understood. And lastly, sir, on the tax rate, what should we assume for the next 2 years?
I think 21 to 22 is what I would take for the next year. And one more year down the line, I think it should be roughly 23%.
Understood. Got it. Thank you and all the best, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll have to take that as the last question. I would now like to hand the conference back to the management team for closing comments.
Yeah, Sudhir?
Sudhir, you can close.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on to Torrent's Q3 call. Any incremental question, you can reach out to our investor relations cell, Sapam Sanghani. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.